Hello, Josh George here doing a video about ACC college football predictions. I'm going to break down each schedule, talk about each team, talk about ups and downs, and project how many wins they're going to have this season. And of course, one thing to know about the ACC is that they are doing no divisions. So the top two teams are best record with head-to-heads, things like that, are going to play in the conference championship game. So in alphabetical order, starting with Boston College. Boston College was a 3-win team last season. The tallest quarterback hit the transfer portal. He was the tallest quarterback in NCAA. And of course, they are trying to turn things around from last season, as they had the lowest efficiency rating on offense in the ACC. I have them at 4-8, and I think that there's part of this is their schedule is very kind of just tough considering ACC standards. So I have them beating Northern Illinois, beating Holy Cross, losing to Florida State, losing to Louisville, beating Virginia, losing to Army, losing to Georgia Tech, losing to UConn, losing to Syracuse, losing to Virginia Tech, beating Pittsburgh, and then losing to Miami to end the season. And part of that is just tough matchups, and really the biggest question is, how is the run defense going to be? So that's how I am going 4-8 and 2-6 in conference play. Now to the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers had their worst defense that they'd had in 5 seasons, and they replaced a 5-star quarterback with a 5-star quarterback. This year's starter will be Cade Klubnik. Super guy, really good scrambler, kind of more talented. So there is that. But they have 8 starters back on defense, so the defense will be really good, and they have the best backfield in the ACC, are the best backfield pairing, of course, with Klubnik and Will Shipley. So they look good under that. I think they're going to have a top 30, top 25-esque defense, a defense that is still pretty good. Even if they dip a little bit they're going to be okay. I have them at 10-2 and 7-1. I have them beating Duke, Charleston Southern, Florida Atlantic, losing to Florida State, beating Syracuse, Wake Forest, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, North Carolina. And then I think Spencer Rattler has another one of his games, and it's on the road, so I think they'll lose to South Carolina. That's how I have them getting to 10-2 and 7-1. Now, the Duke Blue Devils. The Duke Blue Devils overperformed under Mike Elko last year. They were projected at 5 wins and hit 9 wins. So that's huge. This season they bring back 9 starters on offense and 8 on defense. And all seniors will be part of their starting offense. And that makes them one of the most experienced teams in the nation and the most experienced offense in the ACC. So lots of experience. If you get in a shootout, probably going to win that game. I have them at 6-6 and 4-4, and I feel like I'm underestimating Duke. It's just tough because you got a lot of road games. Florida State, that's one that can they go on the road and win? Louisville, can they go on the road and win? UConn is going to be a tough place to play this year. Virginia, North Carolina, big rival game. And of course, you got Notre Dame on your schedule, and Pittsburgh's not going to be an easy senior night, and then you open with Clemson. So it's actually a very difficult schedule, ACC standards. So I ultimately have Duke losing to Clemson, beating Lafayette, beating Northwestern, losing to UConn, losing to Notre Dame, beating NC State, losing to Florida State, beating Louisville, Wake Forest, losing at North Carolina, beating Virginia, and then losing to Pittsburgh to end the year, making them 6-6 and 4-4. Now, Florida State. There's only been one team to lose their opening game and make the playoff. And I don't know how well they match up. They'll have to win the special teams battle in order to beat LSU. More analysis on that game coming later. I'm obviously going to break down LSU when I do the SEC, and of course, I'll do a Week 1 prediction show because that game really is incredible. How well can Jordan Travis scramble against the SEC defense against LSU? LSU has some of the best linebackers in the country and one of the best spies in the country. So, but Mike Norvell, they had the best portal class in the ACC. Really, really good there. And, of course, they have the best mix of tempo offense in the ACC. And Jordan Travis has the best Heisman odds in the ACC as of right now. So, there you go. Can they be consistent on defense is the big question. I think they find a way. I think they play enough defense to win those close games. I have them 11-1 and 8-0 in conference play. Obviously, the one loss would be to LSU. So there we go. Georgia Tech now. Georgia Tech. I think they're going to have a tough year. I think starting out with Louisville and then at Ole Miss are two really hard games. They've had their worst rushing yards per attempts that they've had in the last 5 years, and it has dipped over the last 2 or 3 years. Of course, that's Brett Key's biggest key. There's not a joke. That's actually very serious. He took over in the middle of the year and went up 4-4, so there's that. But he's got to redo the entire rushing offense. He's got to take down Collins's, basically his entire scheme and redo it, and that's just tough to do. I mean, their defense has 6 starters back, but they were also inconsistent at defense, and their 2-4-7 defensive talent composite was at the bottom of the ACC. So I've got them 3-9 and 1-7 in play. I've got them losing to Louisville, beating South Carolina State, beating Bowling Green, and beating Virginia and losing their other games. Now, Louisville. Louisville's a team that I think is also going to be searching for consistency. I like the fact that they've gone to a 4-2-5 defense. I think that really plays in their hands. They have a lot of good secondary guys like M.G. Griffin and Josh Minkins coming back, ball-hawking safeties. So that is going to be really, really huge for them. Of course, Jeff Brom is at his first season there. He's 66-44 in 9 season. He brings offensive coordinator Brian Brom and Ron English as defensive coordinator. So some good names there. And really, I think it's just going to take some time to gel. I think you've got to give this group of time some time. I think those might be the best 3 head coach and offensive and defensive coordinator in the ACC. It just takes time to develop things and to gel because you only have 3 starters back on offense, and your defense is going to be, mix and mash of guys from last year and guys from the portal. So I have them at 6-6 and 4-4, and I have them beating Georgia Tech, Murray State, Indiana, Boston College. Good start. Great schedule to start. Builds a lot of confidence. At NC State, I have them losing, but that's one that if you win, you're undefeated going into Notre Dame, which I have them losing as well. And then I have them losing to Pitt and stumbling to Duke. Like I say, it just takes some time to gel. You have some ups and some downs. I have them beating Virginia Tech and Virginia and then losing to Miami and Kentucky. That's how I have them getting to 6-6 and 4-4 in conference play. Now to the Miami Hurricanes. Look, the Miami Hurricanes, there's a really good interview with Josh Platt out there, and where he interviews head coach Mario Cristobal, talks about his playing time there, and he talks about just how he's trying to turn around this program. They were 5-7 in his first year, didn't make a bowl game, and in 12-year career, he's now 67-67. But it took him a while to turn around Oregon, and eventually got them at a championship level. And I think he will get this team to championship level. He's got 5-star quarterback Tyler Van Dyke back, who's a junior. He's probably going to come back for another season. He'd have to have a really spectacular year to go out for the draft, I think. And I think he's close, but kind of a no-cigar thing. And then with 7 starters back on a defense that is going to be one of the hardest-hitting defense, trying to create a lot of fumbles this year. It's one thing that they're putting emphasis on at Miami. It's going to be huge. So I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be 9-3 and 6-2 in conference play. I have them beating Miami of Ohio, losing to A&M, beating Bethune-Cookman, beating Temple, Georgia Tech, North Carolina before losing to Clemson, beating Virginia, NC State, losing to Florida State, beating Louisville, and ending the year with a win at Boston College. Now to North Carolina. Mack Brown's second go-around has been a turnaround. He has put out good quarterback after good quarterback, and he's got another one in Drake May. And he's got great receivers. The biggest question is in the secondary. That's where they had most of their portal losses and where a lot of people say they lack depth. But of the 7 starters on defense, they're all linebackers and D linemen. So they're going to be really good up front. And of course, Mack Brown, when he wins his first game, he'll have 100 wins solely at North Carolina. And of course, he has 274 all time in 34 years coaching. They hit a 4-loss skid where they didn't score more than 27 points in their last several games. So Drake May and this offense will have to turn it around. Of course, he's got all seniors in front of him on offensive line, one of the most experienced offensive lines of the country. I have North Carolina 10-2 and 6-2 in conference play, beating South Carolina, Appalachian State, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Syracuse before dropping a game to Miami, beating Virginia, Georgia Tech, Campbell, Duke, dropping a game at Clemson, and then finishing up the year with the win against NC State. And that game against Clemson is really going to matter. I think if it wasn't a game that was on the road, I think they'd really, really have a chance, and I might even switch that pick. I think this team is a fringe playoff team. Anyways, to NC State. So NC State has a tough start. They go at UConn, and then they play Notre Dame. So the 2 best independents there. Then you play VMI, and your other non-conference game is Marshall. And Marshall is just nothing to scoff at there. But they're slated to have the best special teams in the ACC this year, according to Athlon Sports. But the biggest question mark is M.G. Morris or is Brennan Armstrong going to play? We know Brennan Armstrong's got the experience, and he's been around, and he's taken several snaps in the ACC. But I just don't know if he's got what it takes. Because you're replacing a really good starter. So ultimately, I have them going 6-6 and 4-4. I have them losing to Connecticut and Notre Dame, beating VMI, Virginia, Louisville, and Marshall before losing to Duke, Clemson, and Miami, then beating Wake Forest and Virginia Tech before losing to North Carolina in that final road game. Now to the Pittsburgh Panthers. Pat Narduzzi has had a team that's been one of the top 3 defenses in the ACC in the last 3 seasons. So really good there for him. And the biggest thing is they only have 5 guys back on that really good defense. And they got Phil Djokovic from Boston College, the best 4th-down quarterback in college football and the tallest quarterback in college football. It's just, does he have the talent around him, or will he have to rely on his legs a lot? He's not a guy that has a ton of rushing yards. He usually gets them on 3rd and 4th down, though, and because he's such a big guy, he's the most most used in quarterback sneak situations. I have Pittsburgh 6-6 and 4-4, beating Wofford and Clemson before dropping a game at West Virginia, which I think will be the most hostile environment of this season in Morgantown, or at least, it'll be the most passionate that West Virginia fans are this year. Let's put it that way. Then they'll lose to North Carolina and Virginia Tech before beating Louisville and Wake Forest. I think they lose a game to Notre Dame and Florida State, beat Syracuse, lose to Boston College, and beat Duke to get to 6-6 and 4-4. Now the Syracuse Orange. Dino Babers is said to be have the biggest hot seat in the ACC and one of the biggest in college football. And a lot of people are pinning their hopes on Garrett Schrader at quarterback and what he brings as a senior leader and how he can manage the offense. Also, if you look at the 40 times of the defense, they are the fastest defense in the ACC. So take that for what you will. I honestly think it's a grain of salt, but it is a kind of a silver lining for a team that I have 4-8 and 3-5. I also have Dino Babers likely getting fired at the end of this season because I only have him beating Colgate, Virginia Tech, Boston College, and Georgia Tech. Now, to Virginia. Virginia is a team that only has 3 starters back on offense and just a team that is hard to say who's going to really be their superstar. A lot of people think it might be their best player might be their center, Tyler Bernsching, and he's a junior, and if your best player and your leader is that center, it's just hard to say because usually you find it in the quarterback room or the running back room or on defense. And of course they have all 4 D linemen coming back, which will be huge, but I feel like they have a tough schedule starting with Tennessee and James Madison, and then ending with Duke and Virginia Tech. I have them at 3-9 and 1-7. I have them losing to Tennessee, beating James Madison, losing to Maryland, losing to NC State, losing to Boston College, beating William and Mary, losing to North Carolina, Miami, Georgia Tech, Louisville, and Duke before ending the year with a senior night game against Virginia Tech on a win. Now the Virginia Tech Hokies. Look, Brett Pray, also a hot seat coach. Grant Wells, good quarterback, great legs. But him and only 6 starters around him on offense. And offensive coordinator Tyler Bowen is talking about, I don't know who's going to play or who's going to start. Every position is basically open. They're just trying to find a way to win games, trying to find matchups, probably going to rotate a lot of guys and see a lot of guys this year. So you're probably going to have a lot of experienced team next year, but this year I have Virginia Tech 4-8 and 2-6. I have them beating Old Dominion, Marshall, Pittsburgh, and Boston College. And the other games losing, so that's 4-8 and 2-6. Wake Forest. Wake Forest lost their quarterback to Notre Dame. Of course, they have Jamal Banks, who combined with Donovan Green for 1,276 yards and 15 touchdowns in 2022. So, that's going to be decent in your little run game there. But how good will their defense be? They have 5 starters back, a couple safeties, and their special teams is allegedly going to be their most improved unit. So some improvement made, but you've lost the quarterback, and I think that's really tough. I've got them at 5-7 and 3-6. The championship, I have Florida State beating Clemson because Florida State's the more talented team. I am Josh George. This is Football Guys channel, like and subscribe, and have a nice day.